Good morning. Welcome everyone to the training program Mastering Cyber Defense using Axiom's XDR 360. So today we are going to cover session 3, which is about advanced vulnerability assessment using VAS360. So Vulnerability Assessment 360 is a one module that is part of the overall XDR 360 platform. And let's dive into it. So I have experts with me. So anytime you have questions, please put those in the Q&A and we'll try to get those answered. So advanced vulnerability assessment. So this is pretty wide and we are going to cover uh, all sort of vulnerability assessment. That's why its name is 360, right? So we are going to uh, first see how to secure online presence, like the websites and so on. Like even every company has a web presence, like website and other web applications and so on. How secure those are? You want to secure those because your customers and your other partners, they will assess that if you don't assess it yourself and improve on that, right? So and then we are going to dive into the agent-based vulnerability assessment and then agentless, which is also called network-based vulnerability assessment. So we start with our trusty overall architecture. And you can see like today the goal is with the XDR, we have been focusing more on like collecting data from the endpoints, from locations, from data center, cloud, and SaaS applications. Like so on some of the previous sessions, we covered those. But with vulnerability assessment, it's slightly different. We are going to probe endpoints, the locations, and web and SaaS, and collect data. Right, so it's more like a going outward and then getting the data back. Like so, but the you see the big picture in this overall architecture. So in this one, if you like before we again the data was coming from the users and endpoints, we can put an agent on the endpoints, we can collect the data, but the same agent can now also do vulnerability assessment at the endpoints. Right? So Axiom's unified SASE XDR agent has that capability to do the vulnerability assessment on the endpoints. Okay. And now how we do the network vulnerability and the third party like network switches, servers, firewalls, routers, right? So we were collecting data, but now VAS360 will be discovering vulnerability into the third party software, hardware, and applications. Like we are that's where the network vulnerability testing is uh, come into play. Like we call it agentless because there's no need to deploy agent on the endpoints. And there are two levels to that. You can do unauthenticated. That means you don't need to log into, for example, your router, switch, or server. Another one is more deeper is authenticated. You can also do network-based assessment, which is authenticated. That means VAS360 is going to go to your server, is going to probe it, and also going to log in and do a more deeper assessment there. It becomes almost like agent-based vulnerability assessment because now you are authenticated and logged into that device. And then the SaaS cloud. So this will be again we cannot put any agents there, right? So you will see there are ways how we can assess the vulnerabilities in these scenarios. Again, with the XDR 360 architecture and the XDR 360 engine, again, so we are going to, before the idea was how we protect endpoints, network, collecting data, and threat prevention. So that was more like reactive, but vulnerability assessment is more proactive. Like even if there's no threat, I'm going to go and scan things and see if there are any holes or any vulnerabilities that are exposed and so on. And then I'm going to collect data. It's the same engine. And in terms of remediation, yeah, I want to patch the vulnerabilities after I have identified those. So sometime it will be human intervention needed, but more and more we are building capabilities where the remediation or patching is going to be automated as well. Once you detect the vulnerabilities, you can automatically patch those as well. And these are the three things we are going to cover. Like we will start with the web vulnerability, like checking the online presence security, then agent-based vulnerability assessment, and agentless or network-based vulnerability. So you will see there will be a lot of these, like you will hear about like CVEs, like common vulnerability exposures and so on. I'm not listing everything, but one thing you need to know about is this score. It's called CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System. Like as a master of cyber defense, you cannot there will be so many vulnerabilities and alerts. You cannot take care of everything. Like you need to prioritize things. So there's this scoring system. Like maybe you only need to worry about critical or high, right, and not all other things that are more for information and so on. So this gives you some guidelines, like in terms of how critical a vulnerability is. This is a standardized scoring system, and as you can see, scale is not there are four digits here, 3, 2, 1. Like when it is critical, it's just between 9 and 10. And I think when it is critical, you need to pay attention. There's no, I think you shouldn't say, okay, I'll only take it off that if it's 9.7 and not 9.3. Like this is critical. Like so this is good to keep in mind. I think this color coding and the severity of security vulnerabilities, like as a master of cyber defense, you should be able to, if somebody say, oh, there's a vulnerability, you can ask, okay, what is its score, and then you take action accordingly. With this one, we can dive into, maybe we start with uh, the web. The online presence one, for the time being, we have made it publicly available. So I can go over here and do a online presence testing. So I think I was thinking, I mean, which website I should pick. I mean, I don't want to get in any trouble and so on. I said, let's pick a company with the largest market cap today. Like, and let's put it over here. Maybe I want to get an email. Yeah, I think I'll get any. Yeah, so okay, let's submit it. It's going to take a minute, like, and we will have the result that we can look at. While we are doing that, some of the why I need to care about my online presence or web vulnerabilities. Like, so there are a number of things. Like, so let's go me to the home screen. So let's talk about two type of uh, vulnerabilities and attacks. One is that is called X-frame option. That means if I lost someone else to put my website as a iframe, then what risk there are. Like you will see why we should not allow that. Like only some trusted domains can embed my website, not anyone. Like, so what happens is, assuming this is the page, like somebody can change that, like domain, and maybe include Axiom as the iframe in there. So this will be very familiar to you. You won't even know like it's the Axiom website or not. And you say, okay, I want a free demo, right? So what is happening is the bad guy, actually what they have done is, when they embedded this as a iframe, they overlay another frame on top of that, which is not visible, and there's action item. Like it may be they know your bank account is with Bank of America, and maybe it is a transfer funds button or somewhere. They already figured that out, right? And then they make you click over here. It's called click jacking. Like I'm clicking, okay, I'm getting a free demo, but I'm actually clicking on transfer funds, right? it may come like I click over here, it says, oh, to get your free demo, you need to authenticate on your mobile device to factor authentication. You just click it because you like it, but you are actually doing multi-factor authentication to have your funds transferred from your bank. Like so, this is one type of attack, like the X-frame options we will be looking at. Another is maybe we can also cross-site scripting. So what is that? If, for example, if there's a form like that, if not, I'm sanitizing input, somebody can, instead of the name, they can put in some weird characters, like which my database, they can then inject some script into this website. And when you come to Axiom website, that script get downloaded on your browser. It's in your browser now, right? And they can do like steal your cookies, session tokens, as we have seen Microsoft 365 account takeovers. They can download malware on your endpoints, impersonate users. So pretty much they can do anything. Like so, this is another cross-site scripting. Like you need to do protection against that. And then there are many type of these type of things. I'm just giving you two examples over here. So let me go back to my email and check where. So yeah. Yeah, you see, I just got email about 2 minutes ago when we did that. So this is for Apple.com. So I got a score of B plus over here, right? And even Apple didn't get perfect score, right? Because there are some issues, and we can look at those. Maybe I'll share this with you. I think offline there may be a question in the quiz around that. So some of the things we were discussing, like X-frame options, like that iframe embedding. So this is good. It's the same origin. And then there's another content security policy. So what Apple is saying, who can embed or run scripts on their website, like on apple.com. You can see all these are some of Apple's own domains, or maybe they have agreements with the social media. You see Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, and all that. So it's just some trusted websites and their own websites. They are allowing to embed this. So this is that protecting from like clickjacking, those type of attacks, and so on, right? And some of the other good things also, no sniffing content. This is also can lead to certain attacks and so on. Uh, okay, yeah. In this case, yeah, it, yeah. It depends. I think maybe there's change in the website. Earlier, I did. There were a number of vulnerabilities. I don't know if they fix it during the over the last days. But so this is the type of report you are going to get, like, and with the things in green, like some of the things that you are doing, like strict transport security. So this is good. That means only allow HTTPS, no HTTP, and so on. Like so, these are the type of things. And it will, if there were vulnerabilities, it's going to tell you. So this is a AI-powered assessment of the security audit. So it's going to tell you what actions you need to take to fix those vulnerabilities. I think if I can, let me see if I can see that I did earlier on Sunday, and maybe we can see more things there. This is one I did on Sunday, and you can see score was B plus, but you see there were these vulnerabilities. Like, I mean, some of the things I wanted to discuss today was this what type of scripts you can run. In this case, like there's some front end vulnerability and some APIs, endpoints, and so on. So as you know, in the web, there's a front end, back end. Back end is more like a database. Same type of things. Like, I mean, if you are not uh, taking care of these things, the bad guys can get access, kind of inject scripts and code into your backends and so on. So I wanted to show you this as example. So it is going to say what is its impact, this vulnerability, what is its impact, attackers can exploit these endpoints, and recommendation what you need to do to take care of this vulnerability and so on. So you can see there's a lot of vulnerabilities even on the Apple website and some of the remediations and so on. So this is the way you can assess like the online presence and the web vulnerabilities. So let's continue with the next two one, agent-based and agentless. Let's start with the VAS360. And so when you need agent-based and agentless, when you can deploy an agent on the endpoints like your desktop, laptop, servers, that is great because now the agent is sitting on the endpoint. It can be very granular in terms of vulnerability assessment. And also if the remediation needs to be done automatically, agent is there. It can run a script to, for example, to do a patch and so on, like the agent-based. And network based is more, as we discussed, the more like third parties like Wi-Fi access points, switches, firewalls, routers, your printers, voice over IP phones, the cameras, anything where you cannot deploy an agent. That's where the network based vulnerability assessment will come into play. And we can look at the, let's see. Yeah, I wanted to check. There's a, let me see if this is agent based or, yeah, this is agentless. I think we are going to cover the agent based and let me, this is here. Yeah, there are a lot of documents needed to find that. So the agent-based Axiom's unified SASE XDR agent already has a vulnerability assessment module, right? So it's constantly doing vulnerability assessment. Where you can go and see is, again, you go to the XDR, the same UI that we have been looking at, and there's a vulnerability detection module. Like if you click on that, you will see like this type of dashboard. Like as you can see, you have the critical. So this is some of the example where we kind of created this to show like there can be all sort of these vulnerabilities, even critical, a lot of critical vulnerabilities, high, medium, and low. Like you already know that scoring, and you can see the details on each vulnerability, like what it is and its description and so on. Like you can see CVSS and other things. So with the agent based, you get a lot more granularity in that. Like yeah, I mean, you can click on those things. So this is the same dashboards as we have been exploring, like for Microsoft 365 security, as well as for SIEM. Like so, this module is a part of the same platform. And the agent based, we can actually go into the dashboard because I wanted to spend more time on that. So let's log into that. So you can see there's a vulnerability management module. I'm in XDR. I need my credentials to log into that. So let's do that. Username is the workspace name. So I can copy paste from here. So we looked at the web vulnerability and the agent based. So this is network vulnerability testing. Like so, some of the things over here we can, for example, look at the SecInfo, like you NVTs, like a network vulnerability test. So there's a huge database, like in this platform. I can check, for example, what the NVTs for Cisco, like any of the network vulnerabilities. You can see, I think we can go down, they're like 980, like you can see. So this really means like, for example, we can look any of those, some security advisory and other things. And they refer to also CVEs, common vulnerability exposures. Like one NVT may have multiple CVEs refer to it. And you will also see the severity, like you say 9.8, 8.8 and so on, that scoring and all that, like over here. Like, so these the color coding and the size over here. The next one is common vulnerability exposures. So these are like named as CVE 2024 and with the number over here. And we can, for example, search for anything over here. Let me search for Fortinet, for example. And you can see what type of vulnerability, for example, in Fortinet products were exposed like over the years. Like, so the database goes back to the 90s. Like, I mean, you will have all the vulnerabilities listed here, and you can click on any one and see more details about that. Like, so these are the things you will see when we are going to now do a assessment over here. CP is another thing you need to know, is a common platform enumeration. So everything, like all software, hardware, and operating systems, this is the naming system, like a Unified Resource Indicator, URI. So you can see like its format over here. So let's do like we can search for Microsoft, and I want to see their CPEs, like what is basically will be Microsoft's different products. You can see the entries are 16,000 over here. So all Microsoft, for example, we can look at this, for example, this is a micro, yeah, the way it is that URI as the first there is the CPE, and then A means the application or software, and then the hardware or operating system. So the vendor name, the product, edge in this case, the version, and so on. Like, so this way, if there's a vulnerability, you also want to know what are the different softwares and applications or operating systems are affected by that. So there is this standardized naming, like this CBE. Then you exactly know if you have one of that software or hardware in your environment, you immediately know that this vulnerability you need to take care of. So these are some of the things when you are into the vulnerability assessment, you need to know, like the NVTs, CBEs, and CPEs, and so on. So the way it works is when we, so with this system, what is happening is because if you have deployed Axiom agent on the endpoint, so unified SASE XDR, there's already endpoint vulnerability assessment happening, right? And if you have deployed Axiom cyber gateways, right, at the locations, then this is more cloud-based tool, but it can go through the cyber gateway at that location. It can do vulnerability assessment. I think you get like a quarterly reports on vulnerability assessment. This is how Axiom is doing that. It will kind of, as we were discussing, any router, switch, access point, printer, basically anything there, it will do a detailed assessment of vulnerability, and you will get a PDF report of that, right? But I can come over here and more like not private targets, but public targets I can create. So target means what I want to scan. Like, it's very easy. I can create a target over here. Like, I can just name it. Let's see, for example, we can, um, or anything. Let me see. I'm not sure if I did we did, and I can put in, for example, apple.com over here, like, because we did the other one there. So this will be more like the network layer now, like it's going to scan not only like the website, it's going to find all the IPs and all the domains and going to scan it, right? Generally, you want to do it for your own website, right? So and so on. So this way I can create a target, then I can create a task, a scan task. I can again create that new task, for example. Again, I can name it because it's very simple, and I can pick the target I created. Like, I created this target. Like, now I save it, and you see it shows up over here. It's not running, but I can run it at any time. But in this case, I'm not going to run it because, right? So, and I have done some other, like, I think one of the thing I did was this, uh, our honeypot, because honeypot has a lot of these open things. That's a perfect thing, like, to learn about this vulnerability assessment. Like, so if I go to my reports, I want to show you some of that. So this is the task, the honeypot that I ran earlier, you can see there are high vulnerability and so on. And I think I'm on the reporting. So let's go to this reporting. So these are the results. You can see since it's a honeypot, there are a lot of vulnerabilities. Like there's a sum at number 10. So this is like a Microsoft SQL Server end of life detection. So right, and it's going to tell you what it is and how to take care of that. It's going to say uh, upgrade that and so on, and so on. So it detects that and it tells you what to do with that. And what different ports it discovers. So these are the different ports. You can see 1433 is the MySQL database, some other ports as well, like on this one, right? And the one host, how many applications, you can see the SQL server, there's a proxy and other things it discovered. There are three CVEs. You can see with the numbers. I think there are more CVEs that apply to the Microsoft SQL Server and others. So you can see everything basically over here. Like it not only did that vulnerability assessment, in this case, this honeypot, Axiom's own honeypot, is exposed over a public internet. The purpose is to see what bad guys are. Like we can track their actions and everything. But I also use that as a vulnerability assessment because we'll see a lot of the vulnerabilities there because that is the whole purpose of the honeypot. Like so that the bad guys try to exploit those vulnerabilities, then we can learn about their tactics and techniques, like what type of attacks they are trying to conduct and so on. But the good thing is you get these reports, but I can also get these reports. I mean, this is the report. Let's just download it. I want in PDF, and let's just get this report. I got the report, and we can see how the report looks like in the. So you will get a report of this like for each your site where the cyber gateway is deployed, right? Um, so this you can see this report was generated earlier today and on April 3rd. So these are the type of things like everything that we were looking at. But this is in a nice now report format and a lot more details. Like we can go one by one on each vulnerability, tell you this is a high vulnerability. These two are high, medium, and low, right? We already know about the scoring system and so on. Yeah. So there's actually this Squid is a proxy, like it's HTTP proxy, and there's a 0-day vulnerability, something like that. It detected over here. Yeah, I think this uh, until last time there was no solution to that. Maybe now there is one, and so on. You see a lot of details about this, like so that. And this is the one, the end of life, Microsoft SQL Server. And you can see again, it's going to, has reached the end of life and should not be used anymore. And it's going to tell its impact, like what is the impact if you don't fix it. Uh, yeah, update the Microsoft SQL Server version on the host to a one that is supported version, right? So it is telling you what to do, that how to remediate these vulnerabilities and the references to everything. You can go to these references and so on. Then there are some other, this is not level 10, but still 8.8. So there are other multiple vulnerabilities in this case, the SQL Server and so on. And you see, it also tells you which versions range is vulnerable to this, not only the vulnerability and so on. So you can see there's even though this was one target, there's a very detailed report with all different vulnerabilities it discovered. And you get a nice summary of everything with the impact if you don't take an action. So most of the time, these things will be on your internal network. Like, I mean, this I did on the public internet because, right, because it is a honeypot, but it will be done on your internal network. So the whole idea is if your network is ever compromised, like somebody is able to get into the network, or your servers and everything that is at that location is protected. Like, so that is the goal. So the automated vulnerability test that Axiom does where the cyber gateways are, yeah, you can opt out of that if you don't want, but I think every quarter we do it, and you get a very detailed report. I mean, even though they are not exposed over the public internet, some of these things, but you still need to fix those vulnerabilities, because if somebody is able to get into the network, that lateral movement and all that it will be very easy for them if there are a lot of vulnerabilities there that that they are able to exploit.